One, hey, two, hey, one, hey, two, hey, three, hey, four, hey, ho, hey, ho, hey, ho, hey, ho. Everybody get up. Ho, hey, ho, hey, ho, hey, ho. Everybody get up. Everybody get up.
How you doing, Miss LaDios?
How you doing, Miss Rav'n?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous today, just fabulous.
Wonderful,
But
wonderful.
this heat, huh?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm melting right now. It's ridiculous. Denver's in the middle of a heat wave, which isn't really that true. We've had a lot of rain this week, but I'm in the middle of a heat wave, but that's my age, so never mind.
She just don't like the heat. I love the heat, you know? But when you're perimenopausal like us, that heat is not our friend.
It's
not our friend.
It's a lot. I got to get some hormone therapy going or something.
Yeah, so, but before we start our movie review, let's do a check-in. What's been happening with you in the last couple of weeks? I haven't seen you for a couple of weeks.
Just keeping grinding. I was in a stage reading this past week, a really cool play called The Flick.
Nice.
And yeah, it was a really great role. I was kind of one of the leads, so it was nice to be in a stage reading where you're active the whole time, because you know what it's like when you're just waiting to jump in, and that can be kind of tedious. So yeah, so that was really fun. I think it'll be on YouTube later this week, so that'll be great.
Okay.
And that kept me a little bit busy.
Keep me posted.
Of course,
so
writing
I can
and all that.
Post it on my YouTube channel.
Definitely.
And of course our YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
Actors from the Dark Side.
Yes. And what about you? What's been going on in your world?
Oh, so I'm getting super excited because now Actors Access is pumping out all the auditions for the sitcoms. So they're coming in, and I'm just like, yay. And then I checked in with my friend. He used to live here, and then he got married from his wife from the Bahamas, and they moved to Atlanta.
Okay.
But anyway, he's been watching our show, and
that's
he asked
wonderful.
about
Thank you.
Yeah, he's like, so who's your friend? And I was like, why? Are you trying to put her in a movie or something? He is he's a award-winning documentary director, short film director.
Oh,
So
very nice. Well,
Calvin Harris shouts out, and he was like, well, I
Yes.
just want to know how you guys met. And I was like, oh, so you ain't watched all our shows.
Episode 1.
Yeah. But on that note, everything's been good. When we were in Wyoming, something interesting happened. We went to eat at a restaurant. I won't say the restaurant, but anyway, when they seated us originally, we were seated by the bathroom, and I was like, I don't want to sit here because it's by the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then she goes, oh, I'm so sorry. And so she pulls it back out, and we had to wait outside, like with everybody else, of course.
Sure.
And then she seated us in a booth that we were comfortable with, and then so I had told the waiter that we were ordering stuff that we don't eat pork, blah blah blah. But anyway, Mr. King got something, and it had like smothered with pork and gravy, and we're like, he didn't want to like send it back. But anyway, he ended up sending it back, and then afterwards, and it wasn't like bad service, it was like excellent service. But then at the end, we went to ask for our tab, and he was like, oh, your meal's paid.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, really? I said, you're joking, right? He's like, no, I'm serious. I was like, who paid for it? He's like, I can't say. So, like, I was really grateful whoever paid it. We want to say thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think Mr. King was like, well, I was wondering because we complained, and the Black Lives Matter is going on.
Yeah,
and
but that is part of it too,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
You know, but doesn't it make you feel kind of good? I know, personally, I feel good that the movement has gathered strength and speed, and there's so many people on board now, where I would say probably 6 months ago, going in public, it was an unfriendly place. I live in a pretty white community, kind of well-to-do. So yeah, going to the grocery store, no one will acknowledge you, or they'll look at you with scorn, like, why the fuck are you here, that kind of thing. So all of a sudden, to see this shift where people are being nice, people are trying to, it just feels like old Denver, if you will, because Denver's always been a very, friendly place, at least amongst natives. And I've never gotten treatment like that amongst white people here in Denver that are born here. But all of a sudden, all these new people are here, and they don't know how to act because, they come from different states, whatever. So I've been very happy. I've seen, there was some white guy jogging with his Black Lives Matter shirt on, and I was like, thank you, boo. It just makes me happy. Yeah, so
they're
I'm
putting
like, thank you for
signs and
joining the
everything.
movement.
So and we hope that everybody is being genuine and not doing it out of guilt, which might be a combination of both. But whatever's gonna proceed with the movement, let's get it on. And
Absolutely.
So, that's gonna lead us into our show.
Oh yes, we're doing a movie review.
So, spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
We always.
What's the name of the movie, Raven?
Defy Blood.
Yeah, by who, Raven?
Spike Lee joint, baby.
Oh my
That's
God.
what I'm talking about.
Yes.
She left it up to me to make the next choice.
Yeah, 40 Acres and a Mule production. Yes. So, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So, if you haven't watched the movie, you haven't seen the movie, do not watch the rest of this show.
Go watch. Go watch the movie
and then come back.
Yeah.
So we're about to get into it. Delve deep.
Why don't you start us off with a little bit of a synopsis? Give us a little bit of a little rundown of the movie.
So this synopsis is basically a Spike Lee joint where he's just dealing with stories of black soldiers in Vietnam and that are largely erased from our American history and culture that people are not aware of. He mentions a plethora of people throughout the movie. There's little screenshots of different people who have been a contribution to us as Black Americans in America.
Yes.
So,
and they basically were on a mission, and they were supposed to be bringing U.S. gold back. In the middle of the mission, their helicopter gets shot down. One of the GIs, who's actually the leader of their platoon, says, fuck this, let's keep the gold for ourselves. Yep. So they make a pact and they bury it, and now it's however many years later, and it's basically present time, and they're revisiting Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam, and getting together to go find this gold.
Yes.
So it's like a treasure hunt. If you will.
So that's good to know, because I was thinking they were just in the war in and of itself and they ran across the gold.
No,
That's what I thought. I didn't know they were on a mission to go get the gold. So that...
I was on there. They were supposed to transport it. That's why they were on that helicopter.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I thought they were just coming because they were going to kill more people.
Yeah, it's
So I'll say, well, there's some great stars. Let me just tell you.
Give us a rundown.
of the
actors.
the actors. So we have Delroy Lindo, who plays Paul.
Fantastic.
I love him.
He was so good in this.
I love him.
Good in this.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Yeah, he had me moved. Anyway,
yes.
we're just gonna mention 3 films, and one of them is they're all Spike Lee films. Right?
Yes, he's worked with Spike Lee a lot.
Yeah,
he does a lot of movies.
Clockers, Crooklyn, Malcolm X. Okay, then there was
one aside. Malcolm X's birthday was last week. Happy birthday, Malcolm!
Rest in power,
and
my
rest
brother.
In power.
Yes,
thank you.
Yes. So then there was Norm Lewis, who plays Eddie. He's been in Just Mercy and The Five Bloods, of course, and Jesus Christ Superstar Musical.
Yes, I do remember him in that. Yes.
He was the one who was Pigeon Toe. I had to listen. Then we had Isaiah Whitlock, who's been Black Klansman movie. That was a Spike Lee joint. The Wire, TV, HBO, and Brooklyn's Finest. And his name is Melvin. I call him the Chunky Monkey. He's so cute. And then, of course, we had Chadwick Boseman.
Black Panther.
Black Panther. Get on up. And then he's in the most recent 21 Bridges, which I have to watch. I
need to watch that too. Maybe we should do a review of that.
Yeah, that could be a throwback review since it was like a little late, but it's still kind of present.
It is.
And then we had Clarke Peters, who's Otis. He's like the drug addict. I would say he's a narcotic. Was he kind of hooked on the narcotics?
I'm not 100%
sure,
but he's the one that played the father.
Yeah, he plays the father of the Asian woman. The father of we'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's the right one.
Okay.
Well, he's the one I always just assimilate. Like, he has the ponytail.
Oh, that's right. Yes. I was getting Paul and Otis confused.
He took
he was taking Oxycontin.
Oxycontin. Okay.
Yeah.
He's been in The Wire, John Wick, and Harriet, the movie. So, cool. And then we had, so these are, some of the other supporting actors. Jonathan Major, who plays David, the son of Paul. And then he's been in The Last Black Man in San Francisco. I haven't seen that. That sounds
interesting.
And then this is an important actor. Ngo Thanh Van. She plays Hanu Hana. She's the broadcaster. Yeah, Bright. And she's also been in Bright 2017 movie.
Okay.
And then...
that's the one with Will Smith.
Oh, yeah. I missed that one.
The
okay.
one that went straight to Netflix.
We have to check that one out. Okay, we'll come back to him in just a moment. Johnny Nguyen, who plays Vine, and then he's the rebel. He's been in the movie called The Rebel in 2007. I haven't seen him.
No, he's a Vietnamese actor, so you just haven't seen him. I mean, it's hard being an Asian actor, I think, especially an Asian male. But that's a different, that's a different topic, but it is. It's
that
not.
might be true, because he looked familiar to me, and I thought he was an X-Man, and forgive me, he was not.
Yeah,
Johnny. Mr. King corrected me really quick. And then Wai Lan, who plays Tin Lu, that was the girlfriend of Otis.
Okay,
and then she was also an Ip Man. And then there's Jean Reno, who plays DeRoche, the Italian, the Frenchman.
Oh, okay.
And he's been in the Da Vinci Code.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, I knew I recognized him. We'll come back to him. But fun fact before we get started.
Sure.
And the reason I have his name to the side is because before The Five Bloods was going to be made, the original cast was going to be Samuel L. Jackson, Denzel Washington, and Giancarlo Esposito, and also John David Washington, Denzel Washington's son.
Oh, wow.
So that's who was going to be in the movie originally.
Wow.
And Mr. Esposito said he goes, regardless, he was so glad the movie got made, and the cast was absolutely stellar.
Yeah, that's
I think I have to say I'm a little bit biased. I really did enjoy the person playing Delroy Lindo playing Paul.
Delroy Lindo is just such an incredible actor. He has such a distinct accent, which you didn't hear in this. So I know he did a lot of dialect work for this role, being the crazy Trump supporter. Yeah, but he did that so good. He did that. It was very much, this is one where I want to give it up to the writers. And I believe their names are, Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo, because this is one of those films where you're sitting there and you know something's going to happen. But what's going to happen?
Right.
What's going to happen? Now they're in the jungle. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? So, I mean, just sitting on the edge of your seat that whole time and kind of suspense. Bravo. That's great writing for me, because I was literally on the edge of my seat saying, what's going to happen next?
Were you really?
What's going to happen next? A little bit. I mean, I got I had to take a break from it. I'm not good with gore or violence, so somebody got blowed up, and that, was disturbing to me, and luckily a friend texted me and was like, hey, come over, and I was like, great, perfect timing. So, I took a break from it, and then came back and watched the rest of it. So that break was perfect, because it was much easier for me to stomach the rest of it and not be what are we gonna see next? That kind of thing. So and then it's wow, it just devolves, into so much chaos. Wow. So that's also fun to watch too, because all of the relationships split. I wished we would have gotten to know, now I'm going off on a tangent, but Storm and Norman we don't really get to see, because he's kind of a ghost character. He gets killed with everybody.
But he's an important character.
Absolutely, so important, because he's the bond that brought them all together.
He's part of the Five Bloods.
And is definitely the reason why Delroy Lindo, Paul, is back on this mission, because we find out that he has a real big, secret. Yeah, real big secret, and a real big kind of guilt that he's been kind of covering up. The wrong word, I can't think of the word, retribution. I don't know. There's something out there.
It'll come to us.
Yeah. It was just very interesting to see those relationships kind of portrayed.
Evolve.
Yeah, and evolve. So what were some of your highlights of the movie?
So I have several, but I will say when I started watching this Wednesday, and I was like, oh my God, another war movie. I don't like war movies. I don't like, so I was like, Raven, why are you torturing me? And so when I went in totally very, prejudice and not really open-minded, and so I got an hour in and I was like, come on, it's another hour. Spike Lee movies are long.
Yes.
And we had a power outage, so I came and I watched it this morning.
So you did the same thing with
yes,
me.
I watched it this morning and from the beginning to the end, all over. And then phenomenal movie, great choice.
Oh yeah,
because it wasn't just about the war in and of itself. It was very much prevalent about how we are big contributions to America, and we are erased and wiped out, and we need to stop this. So it opens up with Muhammad Ali doing an interview because, as you guys know, he was stripped of his title at one point because he wouldn't go to the Vietnam War.
Right,
and he says, "I'm not gonna go over there. They're my brothers. They never did anything to me. They never called me nigga. They never hung me. They never lynched me." So, and throughout the movie, I looked at all the people he put in, like Milton Olive, who was, the 18-year-old, and he was a black war hero that they don't talk about. He basically, and it was kind of symbolic because he basically jumped on a bomb to protect everybody.
A bunch of people.
But that's the
and
same
then still
thing.
stayed alive. Yeah.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
He lived until, if you watch the credits, he lived to like 1975 or something. He ended up being a very decorated war hero.
Wow.
And so sad that he's erased from like so many
our history books.
So many other black men that have been just absolutely
But wasn't that what, what's his name did at the end too? Isaiah Whitlock.
There was one that jumped on the bomb.
Yeah, he jumped on the bomb as well. So that was then they talked about Crispus Attucks,
of course,
who was in there. Angela Davis was a part of it. Then Edwin Moses, how he was leading the 2000 Olympics game. He won 2 medals, one silver, 1 gold.
Sure.
And so there's just a lot of history that Spike Lee puts in. I don't want to give it too much away.
But that was probably one of the highlights of the movie, right? Is that you didn't just get this bloody war movie. You got knowledge.
Education.
Yeah, you got some knowledge behind it. One of the things that I wish Spike Lee would have talked about was the fact that we really didn't need to be there. You know, the French, I mean, a little bit, but he didn't really go into Ho Chi Minh and the French.
I'm going to talk about that.
But, you know, like there's a French character, and there's a couple of French characters, but that's because the Vietnam started being colonized by the French in the 1920s. Ho Chi Minh was a former prime minister who started kind of a national movement of the people to fight back against this colonialism. So that's why America joined with the South to fight against Ho Chi Minh and the Vietnamese, who were just trying to have their livelihood and not be subject to colonialism, which you see sprinkled in because there's French people that are defusing bombs there. There's a French tour guide who's rather condescending. So, you know, I don't know if people realize just how important Ho Chi Minh was to the Vietnamese. That's the reason why their capital is named after him. He was an incredibly iconic leader, and he was fighting for his people. And I'm ashamed of America's involvement in that war because we really shouldn't have been there. And there's definitely a lot of castigation put on the GIs by Hanoi Hannah and that kind of thing. But it's like, I just wish there would have been a little bit more in terms of like, we did not need to be in this damn war kind of thing. And there's lots of outspokenness of, hey, why? But the reason, I don't know. So I'll get off my tangent. But
no, it's a good, because it actually, oh God, we play so well together. Because it ties into, I'm going to play on that because I think, and I love the way he contributed the parallelism of that, this war. This is my Asian brother. This is my black brother. But when you talked about Hannah, and I looked her up because I was like, who is this character? Because I was like, why? Every character in there is relevant, which is why you talked about the Frenchman and all that. But Hanoi Hannah, who is played by Ngo Tan Van, she was a big radio broadcaster in Vietnam, and she would she started getting so popular that she started doing 3 sets a day at 30 minutes a day for the Vietnam War. She started on there, and she kind of did like stuff to help the soldiers, the Vietnam, the GIs, to have a source of amusement. But one of the things that she said in there that was really important, and I don't think she was like, because what did she use, castrating? She wasn't saying that. She was just like, basically saying, you guys don't even know that you're over here. She said the quote that she actually made was, African Americans represented approximately 11% of the civilization population. Yet in 1967, they represented 16.3% of the draftees and 23% of all combat troops in Vietnam. In 1965, African Americans accounted for nearly 25% of all combat deaths in Vietnam. By 1967, this percentage had dropped considerably from 12.7%, but the perception that blacks were more likely to be drafted and killed remained widespread.
That's not a quote from the movie, but that's just a direct, real quote. Because I think in the movie she says something like, you guys only make up 11% of your population, and yet you make up 36% of the GIs here in Vietnam.
And so she was, sorry, that wasn't the quote, but she was also indicating that you guys don't even know that this war is about money.
No,
this war is about money, and you guys are basically being the pawns.
Well, to get that's where I said castigation. It's saying, hey, you're ignorant. You're stupid. You're fighting a war and you don't even know what the fuck it's about. Yeah. And that's basically what she was saying.
So it was so interesting because when they put her in this film and then she starts saying, hey, black GI, you know, your Dr. Martin Luther King has been assassinated. And then so as I went to go read on the history about what happened, a lot of times after they've gotten this announcement, because she was very prevalent, they were surprised that she never even went to Hollywood.
What's funny to me is that she's...
Just a moment. Because she was... They were surprised that she never went to Hollywood because she was so heard, all her information was being disseminated from America to there, and they were just kind of disappointed. But anyhow, she ended up moving to Ho Chi Minh City. That's where she retired. And then she spent the last of her decades there. And then she ended up getting in some film and whatnot.
So the reason why she didn't make it here is because we did Good Morning Vietnam, which was the white GI who brought light and brevity to the troops from the American standpoint of, you're fighting the good fight. Stay up and keep doing your work because you're good American soldiers. That's the reason why. We very seldomly propagate people that aren't up for the message, if you will, the American colonialism, capitalism message. If you're against that, they don't really love you. They
don't love much of anybody. But anyway, I love the parallelism because when I seen... On one end, the Vietnamese were like, you killed me. And then on the other end, they're like, you killed me. And then, they were like, we're brothers. At the end of the day, they were like, we're really brothers. You know, what I thought was interesting.
That's the sad thing.
What I thought was interesting is they went to go get this gold. The whole show is about the gold.
Yeah.
But if the gold was on their land, then it really didn't belong to America.
And the thing that was upsetting to me was, not upsetting, but there was one point where their friend is really kind of standing up. They kind of just found a few bars of gold, and he's like, oh, it's all about this damn money, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he's the one that actually gets blowed up. But right before he gets blowed up, he says something along the lines,
it was
Eddie, Norm Lewis. He says, I wish you guys could remember what Storm and Norman said about money.
Right.
And that's when he steps on the bomb. And I wish we would have found out what Storm and Norman had to say about money. Because I'm sure...
He said money is the root to all evil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he
when
did
was that?
say that. He said that right before, because they made a joke about him backing up, and I was like, that was an odd shot. I was like, that was odd, because he wasn't drunk or inebriated that I knew of, and the way he was backing up didn't make sense. But
for Storm and Norman?
No, but when he said, do you remember what Storm and Norman said about money? And they said, no, you don't. And then they made a joke about him walking backwards, and he said money is the root to all evil. We need to love one another.
Okay, so this was when they were in the club or something.
No, this was when he was holding up the gold and backing up before he got blown up.
Oh, okay. See, I must have missed it. My hearings.
Yeah, because the reason I rewinded, I was like, well, what did he say? Because he was like, money is the root to all evil. We need to love one another. He said,
and then he stepped on the bomb.
Yes.
Okay, yes. I missed it. Okay, my bad.
It's okay. It was like, it was just like a lot. What I love about Spike Lee is he puts such important nuggets in there to educate you, to talk about, you know, loving one another, rebuilding the black community, the family.
I felt like this was Spike Lee's Full Metal Jacket or Platoon or whatever. And I give him kudos for doing that because were around the same age, and I remember growing up with all of these Vietnam movies when I was in my younger years, and I'm not a male, so I didn't have like the, oh my god, I gotta go see Apocalypse Now, or blah, blah, blah. But every guy that I knew loved those movies, so I imagine Spike Lee's one of those guys, and this was a very great black homage to the Vietnam War movies, because you never get any black representation. Gosh, I don't even know if there was a black person in Full Metal Jacket, or you know what I'm saying? Like, there might have been one, but you know, at the end of the day, that wasn't reality. That's not how it was. So it was nice to see these Five Bloods portrayed, and their struggle through this all, because it was a mission of gold, but at the end of the day, I think it was more a mission of like brotherhood and finding themselves.
Yeah, I guess. So, oh wow, we got 5 minutes, but there's so much more. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a pause, and we're gonna come back, because I think we got a little bit more to say. We're back. Thank you so much for sliding back through. So there's a couple of things that because I'm on a devout. I think I've seen every single Spike Lee movie ever, but what was your thoughts in the meaning of them being able to find Norm? Because they came for the gold, but what was your thoughts about them finding Norm?
Well, that was all Paul. And like I said, we find out in the end that Paul actually killed his brother. So Paul has this huge weight on his shoulder, this huge guilt on his shoulders, and his mission is very different from the other Five Bloods. So that's, or the other four, but it turns out to be five because his son joins. But yeah, I think that was the thing for him. He needs to find redemption in Paul, and he is going out of his way to do that. Yeah. So finding the remains, I think that was all. Yeah. That was all Paul. That wasn't really everybody else. Like, because I mean, what were you going to do with them? Really? I mean, like, you have all these bars of gold that you got to carry, and now you're going to carry a sack of bones. I mean, it just did.
Well, they did bring it. They brought him back home so he can have their family.
Yeah, they did.
At the end, they showed his family getting, his funeral, the body to put in. Well, it's just basically the bones. But I thought that was super interesting how because you don't even know his mention. When he left, I was like, why would you leave? But then they resolved everything in his vision. What about now? I did like this because Paul had a really estranged relationship with his son David. But I thought this is the typical relationship that a lot of black men have with their sons. It's always estranged. It's like they're really hard on them. They're really really hard. They're really really hard. And in the end, he was like, I know. And once that he said, I just want you to know that I love you.
Right.
Yeah, I love you. And he goes, you know I love you. And he was like, yeah, I know. He goes, you have a strange way of showing it, but I want you to know I love you. And then I kept wondering, what was this? Why was he so hard on his son? Like, what was it? And then the way they tied it in, how his mother died at the death. What was your thoughts on that? What did you get from that? Did you think that Spike Lee like relayed a good thing of making resolve at the end? Because it seemed like he already knew he was going to die as he wrote that letter that he gave, and then he does this whole confession about how he loves him and so forth and so on. What were your thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, that letter was written probably 20 years ago, and it was a deathbed letter, right? He gave it to his friend and said, when I die, you give this to my son. So, I'm sure that was all of the emotion that he had for the mother, that he actually had for his son, that he would never show. I can't say what it's like to be a black man because I'm not, but I imagine from being a black woman that it's fucking really hard. And having to prepare your child for a world that's going to reject you and is not going to support you and might try to just shut you down at every turn. You do have to kind of raise somebody that's going to be tough. And that might mean not coddling. That might mean not being totally right there. And, oh, you fell? Let me just kiss your boo-boo. It might mean get the fuck up and get over it. Because you're going to fall over again. And you need to know how to handle it out there. So there's something to that. I think sometimes in America, black families get looked at like we're tougher on our children and things like that. And mayhap we are. But it's because we go through a different set of circumstance. And we have to raise our children to be tough like us. Because you can't just let them go out there and be crumbled by the world, because that's your job as a parent. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
That's a good thought. Yeah, I can say that typically happens, but I think that we need to balance that out with more love. But that's a whole nother topic.
Sure.
One thing that did stand out, because you say we have different circumstances. I've been pulled over by the cops, and I haven't had the same circumstances as either Mr. King or my son or anybody that's a black man. And one thing I found interesting, I don't remember the character's name, but he was with one of the Frenchmen that were with the mission with the French woman, the one who died.
Sure.
I can't remember his name, but he had made a comment, and he goes, "I can't believe I was so jealous of you the whole time, David. You're nothing," and he starts saying all this thing, and it made me think the psychological and see, these are things that I look for in a Spike Lee movie, because he puts it out there that if you're not like, if you're not a follower or a fan or someone who's like, he's putting it there on film. Like, these are psychological things, because it's like, with all this racism, is there like a real undertone of jealousy?
Duh. Why do white people get tans?
Yeah. And of course, but I'm just saying, these are things that he's telling you, like, this is happening, and now, one of the things with Otis and Thin, I did not get why all these years that she kept his daughter from him. And I did not understand why at that prevalent moment when he came that she didn't tell her daughter. That just
and I thought it was really messed up when the daughter said, "Hey, will you tell me?" And she still was just like, you're my daughter, and, but then they wrap it all up at the end, and everybody's, obviously, but, I don't know, maybe she really was, like, Paul said, a whore, and he wasn't her only man. It was just the baby that she had with that one GI, and she could have been with a couple of other GIs, and she just happened to have a black baby. I don't know. I can't say why she was so cold and hard with that relationship. I don't know if she didn't want... Who's to say that she... Yeah, I don't know.
I suspect, because she had already said, when he goes, "Well, why didn't you tell me?" He goes, "Is this our child?" She's like, "Yeah." And she goes, "We weren't," I'm going to paraphrase what she said. I'm not quoting it. But she was basically saying, "We weren't crap. We weren't even good enough to clean toilets because I was a whore. Our child was considered what they call," she said something in Vietnamese and then said considered nigger. We were just outcasts. And so I still could not make the connection.
Maybe they would have been further outcast if she would have brought the black guy, Because it's not like they liked us. I mean, we just got done bombing their country and killing everybody,
She mentioned that as well.
That might have been part of it too.
But I still couldn't make the connection of the fact that when he was actually there and her daughter is dying, she obviously knows she's black and Asian. She obviously can see that she's black and Asian. Yeah. Why wouldn't she tell her at that moment that was her father? Because at the end, he was like, "I can't leave you there." Like,
well, and then jealousy.
I love the fact that Spike Lee tied it in to change that dynamic, that not black people are just laying seeds and not taking care of their responsibilities, because I think he would have been that guy who would have...
Well, then maybe it was jealousy. Maybe she had raised that child all her damn life and didn't want some man coming in and taking her away. After all that time, he hadn't been there.
I don't think that was
maybe
a jealous,
not. But at the end of the day, you don't know.
I don't think that was it, because then she connected it at the end, and she was like, "Thank you," and they embraced and stuff. I just wonder if maybe she just felt
maybe it was just intrigue, right? Because at the end of the day, they kept bringing in questions about whether or not she was in on some kind of sabotage, right? That she might have been in with this French guy to sabotage them, and she was taking a cut of their money and all of that.
Well, and that has to tie in with him knowing that's his daughter.
Well, I'm just saying.
Claire, I'm trying to understand the connection of what you're making.
I'm just saying that it might have been intrigue from the writers to not make it like, "Oh, I just want you in my life," because that would make her very trusting. That by her keeping him standoffish, keeping that relationship standoffish at that point in time that you're talking about, that was enough to give us intrigue as to what that woman's motivations are. So that might have just been writing. That might have been writing,
It could have been writing, but that would have made sense if he would have never came back at the end.
No,
Do you see
I
what
think
I'm
it
saying?
totally makes sense because at the end, then right?
Yeah.
At the end, that she wasn't in on it, that she wasn't trying to take.
Well, I mean, if you take the writing out, I mean, if we can put the writing in and dissect and analyze the writing, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about what was on film, what was already written. Like,
sure.
Why wouldn't you? What would change between now that you're sitting right there in front of your daughter? Your daughter's sitting right there in front of her father. Why would you say not let her know versus at the end? What
do you think it was the fact that she came to her mother and made a plea?
I don't know, but that's what I mean.
And that's why you got. I mean, you can say
maybe
away the writing, but at the end of the day, the writers are the ones that created it.
That could have been a connection. That could have been
it's like, I don't know. I mean, here nor there, it wasn't that big of a deal to me.
No, I mean, these are things like I'm a Spike Lee thing, so I know Spike Lee doesn't just.
But he didn't write this.
I know,
so he directed it.
But he does direct it, and I know Spike Lee's directing. So he had his. Even when they were dancing down, he still had that same cut.
Oh, yeah, that was direction. That was great direction. That was great.
He still had that same shot that he always does where he's pulling him on the dolly. He still did that same shot. He has the same type of...
Sure, that's direction. That's direction. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm just saying he has... Those are his signatures. Like, I know what he does.
Yeah.
And then even like do you remember when David was holding the cup and they were in the rooms and his father was like, they were all in the hotel and David had just popped up there?
Mm-mm.
I mean, and he was like, what did you come here for? And they were all four in the room and then they did this close-up shot. So that's like a Spike Lee direction. So I know Spike Lee that he's not going to just direct something that doesn't have things in there, and I'm sure he read that script and probably helped.
I don't know, dear, but I can't tell you the motivation of her. Yeah, she wasn't that. She wasn't that compelling of a character to me, so I wasn't that like, ooh, what's going on with her?
Yeah, I know, like as an actor, I know everybody there. People are, if you're a supporting actor on film, there's you
have a purpose.
There's a purpose in there,
absolutely.
And I try to look at it and from a standpoint of. Okay, I'm sitting here, not necessarily an actor per se, but I'm sitting here like, why would you do this? And my mind is I'm trying to dissect, like, why would you do that? Unfortunately, that's what I do. I loved how obviously his father, do you think that when he left his son, he was like, he's no longer my son anymore because, he betrayed me? I didn't catch that.
Who are you talking about?
When when one of the Frenchmen's got a loose, who hit who on the head? Did David hit Paul on the head, or did Eddie hit Paul on the head when they were in the jungle and then one of the Frenchmen got a loose? He got loose. Do you remember that? And then he was like really spatting at his son, saying he was a traitor.
I forget exactly what happened because that was a lot.
Yeah,
there was a lot of segments. I mean, there was just a lot of movement that was going on, so I can't completely remember exactly, but I do remember what you're talking about, but I don't remember exactly what all happened there. Yeah. But what are you talking about in terms of the relationship with Paul and
I was getting that. Yeah, because he really got angry at him, called him a traitor, and then when he got shot, he says, "You're no longer my son anymore."
Yeah.
And so I was like, so when they're talking about the 5 bloods, because it is bloods, how what I took is loyalty was more important than blood at that point, because he let that Frenchman get away. Because I was like, he called him a coward and everything and this, that, and the other, which kind of was ironic because at the end he ended up killing somebody. You know what I mean? So I was just trying to figure out like he was so angry. Did he leave and think that, did he leave his son behind knowing they would take care of him, or did he leave his son behind because he was planning to go resolve his issues with
maybe
Storm
he
and
knew
Norm?
by resolving his issues meant that he was going to die. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot of bravado to really think, oh, I'm just going to take my gold and screw you guys, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
But maybe that was really his thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe he really had that ego of, I can do this.
Yeah.
And then got his gold stolen and well, I mean, from the land basically, the gold gets taken from him and all that. So it was more of a universal kind of kick in the pants. But I can't really pinpoint Paul's motives because he was so crazy to me, and I don't know anybody like that, and it's very hard, and I don't know anybody that's been affected by PTSD like that. So honestly, you're talking about the motivations of a crazy man, and I don't understand them because he was pretty it didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to me. Like, you know, but at the end of the day, he was so batshit crazy that it did make sense to me. Yeah. You know, does that make sense? I don't know. Like, it's just...
Yeah, I really think that, he had a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder. I get that. I'm totally there, but I also think...
Like, I'd never treat my son like that. I'd never. Even if my spouse... You know, so, again, he's hard to relate to. It's hard for me to say, oh, I get what you're doing. I know what he'd do. You know, there's some characters that I could be like, oh, I totally relate with that person. I'd go to the mall, too. You know, like Issa Rae or something. But, this character is so...
I just thought it was interesting because if he was so angry and there was, he felt like you were disloyal to me because you let that guy go and I'm leaving you, you're not my son, I disown you, but he loved everyone. He still had that letter to resolve with his son. So I was really conflicted with that because I don't know if he actually went there to really resolve his issue or if he went there and he was like, I'm going off my own, forget you guys, I'm out of here. You know, and at that point he had just snapped and he knew he was going to his maker. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I thought that was really, really good. And it's important because I know you said you can't relate to post-traumatic stress disorder. I get it. Or someone...
I mean, I can because I have my own trauma, but not on that level. I mean, Paul was so unsettling that, I mean, when a Vietnamese person approached him, he'd be like, no, get him away. Like, I mean, it was this hyper, like, he was way further off than everybody else. And then when you find out at the end, like, he's carrying this massive guilt of killing somebody that he loved and admired so much, might have loved and admired Storm and Norman out of the rest of them. So for him to be the one to kill him, I think that crushed him. And I think everything that happened after that, his son, the woman, all of that, it didn't matter. He was plagued by this guilt. That he killed somebody that he cared so much about. And so that could have been a lot of his psychosis. Like, I mean, he was somebody that was not mentally stable. So that's where I can't relate or say, oh, I know exactly what his motivation was. He was definitely unstable. So.
I probably can't relate to the really high intensity of the craziness, but I can relate to when you have a burden or there's something that you're holding on to that you haven't let go. And I think that parallels with when Spike was, you know, directing this and the writers, I don't know if these writers are black or white. I don't know, but whatever, it's a black film. I think they were relating to, like, we hold a big burden as black people and it's so heavy and traumatic. It will make you go crazy. Racism in and of itself will make you go crazy. And so when they were saying, even, you know, the guide had mentioned, the guy who played the guide, he said, even after you've been in a war, it really never ends. You know, it never ends because the trauma of war is just ongoing. You're having nightmares. Especially that kind of, when they were showing pictures in there, I seen one of a baby and I was like, oh my God, where did you guys get this? And then, so what I heard throughout this whole movie from the beginning to the end, that love was an important factor all the way until the very end. Love was an important factor, which is what's his name who got, Eddie had said. He said, Storm and Norm said, love is an important factor. He was talking about love yourself, love your brother, love everybody,
love humans,
you know,
period.
And I think they were trying to generate that. I mean, that's what I got out the movie in the end. And the last thing I loved about this movie before I give my final grade is that the music was phenomenal.
Yeah, the music was great.
Spike could not have picked a better score because I am a Marvin Gaye fan, and all the music, every single thing, even when they were singing, was by Marvin Gaye. I like every single song. I love those songs. Those are songs I'm a Marvin Gaye fanatic. This movie, to me, if I had watched it on Wednesday fully, I wouldn't have taken it in as I did. I probably would have gave it a poor score. But love Marvin Gaye. I'm going to give it A on the musical score. The directing was great. I'm going to give it A for the directing. The cast, even with the previous cast that they chose before, I think this cast was very phenomenal. I'm going to give it A for that. I love the movie all over. Would I have went to the movie theaters to see this? I would not. Just because anything dealing with war, I'm not I can't. But I would have watched it, and I'm glad I watched it at home. I know Mr. King's looking at me like, what? But I don't like war movies. I don't like any things. But I love Spike Lee movies. Now, if I did go to the movies, I probably would have went with Mr. King because he would have pulled me there. But I give, because I'm not a war fan, I'll give it a B++. But overall, you got 3 A's and a B. And what's your score?
I gave it a solid A. Solid A in all categories. You know, Spike Lee, you obviously always outdo yourself, and the knowledge, that was great. The music was great. The cinematography was great. Yeah, it was really like there weren't any dull moments. There weren't anything lacking. I learned a lot, and again, I was on the edge of my seat waiting to see what was going to happen. You knew something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. So I really loved that element of it. So overall, great job everybody on this movie, and yeah, solid A.
Yeah, so we hope that you enjoy this movie, and you can let us know in the comments what you think. We want to know. Put them down in the comments. In the meantime, in between time, remember, you don't have to be asleep to dream. So get up and get out and do something for yourself. I'm LaDios Muhammad, an actor with purpose.
And I'm Rav'n, an actor with passion.
And we are actors
from the dark side.